The 15-inch MacBook Pro has kind of been the de facto computer to love to hate, yet people still bought it in droves. And it's been plagued with issues. There was notoriously keyboard issues, there were touch bar issues, there's thermal issues and battery issues, and there was a lot of things that Apple had to fix and had to get right, frankly, this generation, sort of regain that customer service and customer level of satisfaction that Apple's traditionally been known for. So now we have the answer. We've got the update, the newest model, the 16-inch MacBook Pro, where Apple seemingly went through a checklist of issues and fixes with it. But have they really addressed all the problems? And is this the MacBook Pro that a lot of people have been waiting for? All right, so when you look at the 16-inch MacBook Pro next to the 15, there aren't that much in the way of differences, especially that 15 wasn't really 15, it's 15.4, so there's barely over half an inch difference in screen size. And everything else is exactly the same. The PPI is the same. It's a little bit higher resolution to amount for that different size, but everything else identical. You've got the same True Tone, same Retina, same great color accuracy, same viewing angles, same pretty much everything. I would have liked to have had HDR ability here to be able to see the HDR footage that my phone can record, especially in a pro level computer at this price. But if you're okay with the last few generations of Retina displays on MacBook Pros, you'll be fine with this one. There are a couple things that I never really noticed in new laptops. I think speakers would be at the top of that list. They're there. It's listening back to audio to see if it sounds okay. I never gave much thought into laptop speakers because, quite frankly, they're laptop speakers. I was shocked by how actually good and usable the speakers are in the 16-inch MacBook Pro. I'm not saying they're gonna replace a really nice pair of headphones, but as far as laptop speakers goes, they are the best that I can ever remember hearing. And in the same vein of stuff that I never really thought that much about, the microphone on the laptop is very good here. But it's not gonna replace a studio mic like the one I am currently talking into, but it is very good and definitely a step up from what we had with last gen's 15-inch. So I think if you could pinpoint one area where any electronics could be better, battery life is always number one. And the max amount of wattage you can have and being allowed to fly, at least in the United States, is a 100-watt battery, and that is what is in the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. So it's hard to complain about the biggest battery that you can have. When the original 15-inch launched with the redesigned keyboard, battery life was not very good. So we're gonna keep doing more testing to see what the difference is, but it seems like you can probably expect about 10 to 12% battery improvement, which is not insignificant. All right, but internals and performance is also a big deal, and to say the last gens was plagued with issues, I think would be a gross understatement. There was throttling, all kinds of problems that were going into these supposed flagship computers. Apple, another instance of Apple clearly listening to consumers. The 9th gen is still very capable, and they've done a lot more with cooling here. There's more room, so you get the theoretical max speeds more often and at varying temperatures than you ever did on last generation's 15. So using it for our workflow, and that's sort of what I test, is how I use a computer. So Final Cut, obviously Apple software with Apple hardware, blazingly fast. But I didn't think the 15-inch, last generation was really slow in that aspect. But if you're the type of user who's pushing your computer, you're going to appreciate, I think, the extra headroom and horsepower that you've got with the 16-inch. But obviously you want the other specs to match that as well. The fact that this can go up to 8 terabytes of SSD space is staggering. It's actually the max amount now in the new Mac Pro, so pretty impressive in a laptop. You can go up to 64 gigabytes of RAM as well. It's expensive, you're over $6,000 for that, but you're still coming in less than what the top spec 15-inch MacBook Pro was. So if you wanna go that route, you need 8 terabytes and 64 gigabytes of RAM. At least you've got the option now and to be paying less than you would have, a few weeks ago. So if there was one giant complaint that had to be fixed, from a quality control issue to a user experience to just a perspective of the company, it was that keyboard. So we gotta talk butterfly. Now, I was lucky. None of my 3 butterfly switch MacBook or MacBook Pros have failed on me personally. There's still very clearly a widespread issue. Out of the people that work with me, we've had 2 MacBook Pros that had to go in for keyboard replacements. I've felt Michael Fisher's pain online with his keyboard not working. It was clearly an issue that had to be fixed. So Apple reverted back to a familiar design. It's a scissor switch now. They're calling it the Magic Keyboard. Essentially, if you use one of Apple's current Magic Keyboards, so what you get with an iMac, for example, it's a pretty familiar experience. When you're typing, you've got more key throw than you had on the scissor switch, a little clickier. I didn't notice that big a difference in feel, but I will probably notice a difference in longevity. But at least they are saying, okay, we made a mistake. Let's give a keyboard that's actually going to work, because that's kind of important for a laptop. The inverse T is back on the keyboards. Now you can actually feel where the arrow keys are instead of having to actually look down. That was a very welcome change. And another area that needed improvement, if not deletion altogether, was a touch bar. I am not a big touch bar user. It's of minimal utility to me. If you guys do a lot of developing, programming, coding, or just want to exit from full screen video, you know the pain of trying to find that escape key, or if your touch bar freezes and it's just software and you can't hit that escape button. Apple listened to you as well, and it's funny to even talk about something as minimal and seemingly trivial as a physical escape key, because of course it's a laptop, it should have that. So all these things are subtle, they're little things that probably shouldn't have been problems in the first place, but they've all been fixed. Escape key, better keyboard, arrows, the now Touch ID is its own dedicated button. All these little things coupled with the specs and the improvements to the thermals and better battery life are giving you overall a really improved computer. So obviously the 16-inch brought a lot of new to the table. It fixed problems, it showed Apple was listening, but maybe only listening through one ear. There was a lot of stuff that we didn't get, stuff that was rumored, and all technology that's probable and exists now, nothing like crazy far-fetched. And the first one, and I've said it in a lot of videos, Face ID all the things. Face ID makes almost more sense in a laptop than it does in a phone. Windows been doing it for years with Windows Hello. It works beautifully, it's seamless. I would have loved to have had Face ID built in to this flagship level, this top of the line MacBook Pro. I thought this was gonna be a generation we got it. Looks like we're gonna have to wait another year or so. Aside from that, ports. 4 Thunderbolt 3 USB Type-C ports have been the standard on MacBook Pros. For a slight period of time, there was a rumor that an SD card slot was gonna come back. And if Apple was going back to the scissor design for the keyboard, I thought maybe they might also take a few steps back and give the Pros an SD card slot. I would have loved to have had that on here instead of having to plug in a dongle and then an SD. I think that would have made a lot of sense on the MacBook Pro. Another odd omission is Wi-Fi 6. And that might not mean that much to you right now, but on a laptop, presumably you'll keep it for a few years, 2, 3, 4, even longer. Wi-Fi 6 is coming, it's already out now. Apple even has it in the iPhone 11. It would have made sense that that would have been in the MacBook Pro. And again, might not matter to you now, but 12 or 24 months, you might really wish that you had that Wi-Fi 6 compatibility. This one's maybe a little less important and, I don't know, maybe a little shallow, but I would have liked a new design. It's a new size, new 16-inch MacBook Pro. Maybe make it look a little different, even a different color would have been nice. Throw Marquez a bone and give me a matte black version would have been a nice addition to have. And then I get that this is kind of peak laptop design, there's only so much you can do with a traditional clamshell, but something new I think would have been nice to have. So the question that we asked at the beginning, is this a computer that we've been waiting for? And it's hard not to look at this from the outside and think, meh, Apple's fixing problems that probably shouldn't have been problems in the first place. And when we looked at this 16-inch computer, I wanted to test the entry level, the cheapest option in the 16-inch line. At about $2,400, you're getting a very well-spec'd and capable computer, one that I really enjoyed using. And with a lot of Apple devices, laptops, phones, and tablets, they tend to be more than the sum of their parts. If you look at just the spec sheet, generally you're underwhelmed. From an experience standpoint, how these little things added up, it's a pretty nice upgrade over what we had last year. Now, if you've got the most recent generation 15-inch MacBook Pro, this is not an update that you want to run to. But if you have a computer that's been plagued with problems, maybe 2 or 3 years old, you're gonna notice a big improvements here with the 16-inch. And I'm not excusing any problems that Apple's had with last gen. You shouldn't have to replace a laptop every 12 or 24 months. But if you're in the market and you decide that you wanna spend that starting price of $2,400, you're gonna get a very well-spec'd, usable computer. And if you're looking to get a computer that can work for you and not hold you back with usability issues, at least on first impressions, it seems like Apple has delivered.